Welcome to Tobacco Watcher, real-time artificial intelligence for tobacco control. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into some of the Tobacco Watcher's features using an example of Juul e-cigarettes. Let's start by searching the database. So here's the results of articles that contain the word Juul, showing some of the results and hiding some of those marked as duplicates. Here we can see the first article, Vaping Linked to Brain Damage, Narrowing Arteries, an article published recently and by Healthy Food House. Our machines believe this article is primarily about health warnings. It's focused on the United States and North America, was authored in English, and is primarily about e-cigarettes. We can also filter these results by subject, product, location, language, or time frame. Or we can narrow our results using a keyword query. So let's focus on articles with just Juul in the title. Here we see those results, where we see most recently health groups urge FDA to investigate Juul for making unauthorized claims. We can scroll through these and see what's happening of late around Juul. Oh, here's something of global consequence. E-cigarette Juul to land in, I believe, South Korea this week. Now, what if we didn't know about this? What's really happening here? That's what Tobacco Watcher does. It can give you the story behind the story using our Smart History feature. Let's check that out. So here we see the focal article about e-cigarette Juul potentially coming to South Korea, and we can see articles related to that. Here's an article from a few days ago talking about how Juul would benefit from a low e-cigarette tax in South Korea. We can see an article from a few months earlier talking about the e-cigarette industry and the battle of that marketplace across brands. We can even see articles talking about how e-cigarettes are competing against IQOS and other heat-not-burn products. So here, instead of investing months or years to understand the context of what's happening around Juul in South Korea, you can become an expert almost instantaneously. That's what Tobacco Watcher does. So let's go back and think about other ways that we can use Tobacco Watcher, like creating an alert. So with Tobacco Watcher, we could create an alert focused on Juul to have articles delivered to us every day, week, month, so we can know what's happening in near real time. So here we could create an alert about Juul. We could focus on articles that contain the keyword Juul. Or if we had a more general interest in e-cigarettes, we could actually use our artificial intelligence to identify articles focused primarily on e-cigarettes that goes far beyond keywords. In addition to creating alerts, we can also plot analyses to see what's trending around Juul. So let's create one such trend. So here we'll name our trend Juul. We'll focus on articles that contain the word Juul, and we'll make no other filter. Let's plot those results. Here we can see for the last 12 months, about 6% of all articles in our database contain the word Juul. We can see they're trending upward. We can also expand this to cover the entire history of Tobacco Watcher. Here we can actually see the rise of Juul happening in late 2017, but we also can see some early indications where articles are talking about a product called Juul. Let's look at one of those. So here we can click through Tobacco Watcher to see those articles from April of 2015. And we see Pax Labs is introducing a product called Juul. So now we can get the entire history of Juul e-cigarettes. Let's go back to those analyses. In addition to seeing these time trends, you can also get the context of what's happening using Tobacco Watcher's artificial intelligence. We can see that the vast majority of articles mentioning Juul are focused on North America, but we can also see some focused on Western Europe, Central Asia, East Asia. We can also understand the context of how the article is talking about Juul. Is it talking about the prevalence of people potentially using Juul, about minimum age laws, warnings about the dangers and harms of tobacco, or talking about the Juul industry? We'd also see that even though most articles that mention Juul are primarily about e-cigarettes, some articles are primarily about cigarettes and just mentioning Juul in passing. We can also expand our analysis to take an even deeper dive. Let's look at some additional context here. Maybe articles that contain the word Juul but focused on India. We can do that in just a few clicks. And we can plot that result. Here we can see articles. We can filter by a different date range. We can look again at, let's say, the past 12 months of articles about Juul focused on India. And we can look at one of these spikes and try to understand what's happening here. What's going on with Juul in India? Here we can see those results. Juul is planning an entry into the India market. So we can use Tobacco Watcher to analyze trends to understand what's potentially happening around the world, even on one product like Juul. That's what we encourage you to do. Use Tobacco Watcher to mine our database to see what's happening. Use alerts to stay up to date so you can get the latest news on the topics you care about. Or use our analysis tools to understand important trends and understand the context of what's happening around the products and tobacco control issues on your radar. We look forward to you using Tobacco Watcher and working with you to engage tobacco control all across the globe together in the future.